My husband thought he had won when he drained our life savings of $500,000 and fled with his mistress to a tax haven. But he forgot he is the sole heir to a $50 million trust fund unlocking on his 40th birthday. The only physical key to activate it sits inside my son's old gaming console, the very object he kicked out of the house before leaving. My name is Quinn Everly, and until 4 o'clock this afternoon, I existed in a bubble of suburban delusions so thick it could have stopped a bullet. I was standing in line at the organic market, the kind where the lighting is designed to make the produce look like jewels, and the customers wear yoga pants that cost more than a car payment. I had a cart full of Wagyu beef, a bottle of $200 Cabernet, and a custom-ordered cake for Marcus's birthday. He was turning 40 next week. I wanted everything to be perfect. The cashier, a girl with bored eyes and a nose ring, swiped my platinum card. She waited a beat, then frowned. She swiped it again, declined. She said the word loud enough for the woman behind me, a neighbor, Sheila, whose husband played golf with Marcus, to hear. I felt a flush of heat crawl up my neck. I laughed it off. A brittle, nervous sound. I told her the chip must be faulty. I handed her the gold card. Declined. I handed her the joint debit card. Insufficient funds. The heir left the room. It was not just embarrassed silence. It was the sound of a guillotine blade hanging suspended before the drop. Sheila cleared her throat behind me. The cashier looked at me with a mixture of pity and annoyance. I left the cart there. I left the Wagyu and the expensive wine and the cake with Marcus's name written in elegant frosting. I walked out of the store with my hands shaking so badly I could barely find my car keys. I drove home to our house in the highlands of Seattle. It was raining, a relentless gray drizzle that slicked the winding roads. I called Marcus. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. A cold knot formed in my stomach, distinct from the panic of the declined cards. This felt heavier. This felt final. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked normal. It was a sprawling modern craftsman, manicured and imposing, but when I unlocked the front door, the silence that greeted me was not the quiet of an empty house. It was the silence of a tomb. I ran up the stairs, my heels clicking frantically on the hardwood. I burst into the master bedroom. The closet door was open. His side was empty, not just messy, but surgically empty. His suits, his shoes, his watch collection gone. I scrambled to the wall safe hidden behind the portrait of us on our wedding day. The painting was swung open. The safe door was ajar. I fell to my knees. It was empty. The stacks of emergency cash we kept for natural disasters, gone. The velvet pouches containing my grandmother's vintage diamond earrings and the sapphire necklace intended for my future daughter-in-law, gone. My passport gone. My phone chimed. It was an email notification from the bank. I opened it with trembling fingers. It was an automated fraud alert, but not the kind that saves you. It was a confirmation. Transfer complete. International wire. I logged into the app. My eyes struggled to focus on the numbers. The checking account read 0, the savings account, the one we had been building for 15 years, the one meant for Leo's college and our retirement, read 0, $500,000, gone in a series of transactions authorized 3 hours ago. I sat on the floor of the closet, surrounded by the ghost of my husband's presence. I felt like I was drowning on dry land. How could he move that much money without my signature? Then I remembered the power of attorney papers I had signed 5 years ago before a surgery. Papers I never revoked because I trusted him. I trusted Marcus with my life. I went downstairs, moving like a sleepwalker, in the kitchen, on the granite island where we used to drink coffee and plan our summer vacations, sat a single sheet of paper. It was typed. He did not even have the decency to write it by hand. It read, Quinn. I cannot do this anymore. The suffocation, the boredom. You have let yourself go, and you have let the spark die. I found someone who makes me feel alive again. Her name is Ivy. Do not look for us. Consider the money compensation for the 15 years of misery I endured pretending to be happy with you. You will be fine. You are a survivor. Marcus. I read it twice, then a third time. The cruelty was breathtaking. He framed his theft as if he were the victim, as if robbing his wife and child was a moral imperative because he was bored. He spoke of 15 years of misery. 15 years where I supported him while he built his career, where I raised our son, where I managed his life so he never had to worry about a single bill or appointment. I grabbed the landline and dialed Omnicorp Logistics. I needed to speak to his assistant. I needed to know where he was. The receptionist answered. I asked for Marcus Everly. There was a pause, a long, uncomfortable silence on the other end. Then she said, Mrs. Everly. Marcus resigned 2 weeks ago. He said you two were moving to the Caribbean. We already sent his final check to the forwarding address he provided. 2 weeks. He had been waking up every morning, putting on a suit, kissing me goodbye, and leaving the house to go nowhere. He had been planning this while I cooked his dinner. He had been liquidating our assets while I slept beside him. The front door opened. I froze. For a split second, a pathetic, hopeful part of me thought it was him, that this was a sick joke, that he would walk in laughing. But it was Leo. My 14-year-old son walked into the kitchen, his backpack slung over one shoulder. He was soaked from the rain. He looked at me, standing there with the note in one hand and the phone in the other, tears streaming down my face, mascara ruining my shirt. He looked at the open safe visible from the hallway. He looked at the emptiness where his father's espresso machine usually sat. Marcus had taken that too. Leo did not scream. He did not ask what happened. He did not look surprised. He dropped his backpack on the floor and walked over to me. He is tall for his age, already taller than me. He took the note from my hand, read it once, and crumpled it into a ball. He's gone. Isn't he? Leo asked. His voice was steady, terrifyingly calm. Yes, I whispered. He took everything. Leo, the money, the savings, everything. Leo nodded. He took my hand. His palm was warm. The only real thing in a world that had turned into vapor. I knew he would leave. Leo said, I just didn't think he would be this fast. I looked at my son, shocked. You knew? He's been weird for months. Mom, hiding his phone, smiling at nothing. Leo squeezed my hand. We will figure it out. But Leo did not know the half of it. I pulled away from him and ran to the home office. I needed to check the mortgage. If he took the liquid cash, that was one thing. But we had equity in the house. We had a roof. I logged into the mortgage portal. The screen loaded agonizingly slow. When the dashboard appeared, I felt the bile rise in my throat. Outstanding balance. $1,200,000. The number made no sense. We only owed $200,000 on the house. We were almost paid off. I clicked on the transaction history. 1 month ago, a home equity line of credit was opened. Maximum draw. The entire value of the house had been cashed out. The signature on the digital document was mine, or rather, a perfect forgery of mine. He had not just stolen our savings, he had stolen our home. He had turned our sanctuary into a debt prison. I printed the statement, staring at the numbers until they blurred. He had planned this down to the day. He waited until the equity loan cleared, transferred it to the joint account, moved it all to his offshore shell, and then vanished. I walked back into the living room. The rain was hammering against the floor-to-ceiling windows. The house was cold. I realized he must have canceled the utilities too. Or maybe the smart thermostat was just set to economy mode to save him a few pennies before he left. I sat on the white sofa, the one I had spent months picking out. It felt like a prop in a play that had been canceled. Leo sat next to me. He did not turn on the TV. He did not look at his phone. He just sat there, witnessing my ruin. I opened my purse. I took out my wallet. I bypassed the useless credit cards and opened the billfold. $200. That was it. $200 in cash. I did the math in my head. The fridge was half empty because I was supposed to go shopping today. The gas tank in my car was near empty. The mortgage payment, the new, massive payment on the loan he stole, was due in 3 days. When that payment was missed, the bank would start the foreclosure process. We had 3 days, 3 days before the electricity likely got cut, 3 days before the reality of homelessness moved from a concept to a threat. My husband was probably on a private jet right now, sipping champagne with a woman named Ivy, laughing about how easy it was to discard me. He thought he had left me with nothing. He thought he had broken me. I looked at the crumpled note on the floor. I looked at my son's stoic profile. The shock began to recede, replaced by a cold, dark void. I was 38 years old. I had a degree I hadn't used in a decade. I had no job history in recent years. I had no credit. I had $200. But as I sat there in the darkening room, watching the shadows lengthen across the floor where my husband used to walk, I realized something else. He had left me alive, and that was his first mistake. The silence of the house the next morning was not peaceful. It was heavy, pressing against my eardrums like deep water. I sat at the kitchen island with a mug of black coffee, staring at the empty space on the wall where our calendar used to hang. Marcus had taken that too, presumably because it contained the dates of his upcoming appointments and flight details. In the harsh light of day, the shock began to curdle into a nauseating clarity. My mind, no longer paralyzed by the immediate trauma of the empty safe, began to rewind the tape of the last year. The signs had been there. They had been screaming at me, bright red and flashing, but I had chosen to view them through the soft focus of a trusting wife. I remembered the password change 3 months ago. For a decade, his passcode had been our anniversary. Then, one morning, I tried to unlock his phone to check the weather, and it failed. He had snatched it from my hand, laughing nervously, claiming his company IT department required stricter security protocols. I believed him. I remembered the business trips to Chicago. He went every other weekend for a consulting gig that he claimed paid double his usual rate. I never saw the pay stubs. I just saw the new suits he bought and the way he came home smelling not of airport stale air, but of expensive hotel soap and a perfume that was musky and floral. I had asked him once if he changed cologne. He told me I was imagining things. I realized now that I had been gaslit for so long that I questioned my own sensory perception before I questioned his integrity. By 10 in the morning, reality forced me into motion. I needed legal counsel. I dug through my contacts and found the number for Robert Sterling, the divorce attorney who had handled my sister's separation. He was expensive, but he was a shark. I needed a shark. I called his office. His secretary put me through after a long hold. "Quinn," Robert said, his voice smooth and professional. I heard rumors. Seattle is a small town. He took everything. "Robert," I said, my voice shaking despite my best efforts to keep it steady. "The accounts are empty. The house has a lien on it. I need to file an emergency injunction to freeze whatever assets he hasn't moved yet. I can certainly help with that," Robert said. "My retainer is $5,000. Given the complexity of international wire fraud, we are looking at $10,000 to start." I gripped the phone tighter. "Robert, I have $200 to my name. You know me. You know Marcus had assets. Once we get a judgment, I am sorry." "Quinn," he cut me off. The warmth vanished from his voice, replaced by the cold calculus of business. "Without a retainer, I cannot open a file. And if your accounts are truly zeroed out and your credit is flagged, which it likely is if he stopped paying the mortgage, you are a liability. I run a business, not a charity." The line went dead. I sat there, the humiliation burning my cheeks. I was a woman who had hosted fundraisers for the hospital wing. I was a woman who had donated to the very legal aid society that I now probably qualified for. In 24 hours, I had gone from a socialite to a pariah. Then, the phone rang in my hand. The screen displayed a restricted number. My heart hammered against my ribs. I knew who it was. A part of me wanted to throw the phone through the window, but a desperate, pathetic part of me needed to hear his voice. I answered, "Marcus, hello, Quinn." His voice was so casual, so utterly devoid of guilt, that it took the breath out of me. He sounded like he was calling to ask if we needed milk. I could hear the faint sound of ocean waves and seagulls in the background. "How could you?" I whispered, Leo is 14. You left us with nothing. Stop being dramatic. Marcus sighed, as if I were nagging him about leaving the toilet seat up. I left you the car. It paid off. And you have your degree. You can get a job. It is good for you. You have been stagnant for years. Quinn, boring. You just exist. You stole $500,000. Marcus, you forged my signature, I screamed, the rage finally breaking through the shock. I did not steal it, he said, his tone dropping. Becoming darker, I earned that money. I went to that office every day for 15 years while you went to Pilates and luncheons. That money is my severance package from a marriage that died a decade ago. Think of it as a tax, a refund for my wasted potential. You have a son, I choked out. Leo will be fine. He is tough. Unlike you. He paused, and I heard ice clinking in a glass. Besides, I have to think about the future. I have a new family to support. The world stops spinning. What Ivy is pregnant, Marcus said. The pride in his voice was sickening. We are having a boy. I'm going to get it right this time. No mistakes. I need a fresh start. Quinn, and frankly, you were just expensive dead weight. Look at yourself. You are almost 40. You stopped trying. I felt like I had been physically struck. Ivy, pregnant, he was replacing us. He was not just leaving, he was erasing us to build a better version. Before I could respond, before I could scream or beg or curse him, a hand reached over my shoulder. Leo took the phone from my ear. He did not say a word. He tapped the screen, switching it to speakerphone, and then tapped the record button on his own phone, which he held in his other hand. He placed the phone gently on the counter between us. Are you still there? Marcus asked. Quinn, do not go silent on me. It is pathetic. Leo looked at me. His eyes were dry, hard flint. He put a finger to his lips. I am here, I said, my voice trembling. Leo nodded at me to keep him talking. Good, Marcus said. Don't bother looking for us. We are not in the States anymore. And do not bother with the police. By the time they file the paperwork, the money will be bounced through 3 different shell companies. It is gone. Quinn, just like us. Goodbye. The line clicked off. Leo stopped the recording on his phone. He saved the file, backed it up to a cloud server, and then looked at me. He thinks he is smart, Leo said. It was the first time he had spoken since the call began. He isn't. Leo, I sobbed, reaching for him. He has a baby. He is with Ivy. I know, Leo said. Come with me. He led me upstairs, past the master bedroom that smelled of betrayal, down the hall to his room. I rarely went in there. It was his sanctuary. It was dark, the blackout curtains drawn tight against the afternoon sun. The only light came from the glow of 3 curved monitors sitting on his desk. The hum of computer cooling fans was the only sound. He pulled up a chair for me. Sit down, Mom. Leo sat at his keyboard. His fingers flew across the keys with a speed and precision I had never noticed before. I knew something was wrong 6 months ago, he said, his eyes scanning lines of code. He started taking calls in the study at 2 a.m. He bought a burner phone. I found the receipt in the trash. You went through his trash, I asked. Weak. I protect this house, Leo said simply. Since he was acting suspicious, I installed a keylogger on his laptop, and I put a microcamera in the bookshelf in his office. Behind the encyclopedia set, he never reads. He clicked a file. A video window opened on the center screen. The timestamp was from 3 weeks ago. I watched, horrified. As my husband walked into his home office, he was not alone. A woman followed him. She was wearing a tennis skirt and a tight white tank top. She turned, and I saw her face clearly. It was Ivy, who I had met at my yoga studio. Ivy, who I had grabbed smoothies with. Ivy, who had listened to me complain about Marcus working too much, nodding sympathetically while her eyes glittered with a secret amusement. She had befriended me to scout the territory. On the screen, they embraced. It was animalistic, desperate. They had sex right there on the desk. Sweeping aside our family photos to make room for their bodies, I had to look away. nausea rolling in my gut. Fast forward, Leo said. His voice flat. He scrubbed the video bar. The scene changed. They were now dressed, sitting in the leather armchairs, drinking my husband's expensive scotch. It is almost time, babe, Ivy said on the video. Her voice was high, grating. Are you sure the lawyer is ready? He is ready, Marcus replied. He looked different in the video, arrogant, powerful. The old man's will is ironclad. On my 40th birthday, the trust unlocks. The trustees have to hand over the access codes. And Quinn knows nothing, Ivy asked. Quinn thinks I am a middle manager at a logistics firm. Marcus laughed. It was a cruel, barking sound. She thinks I grew up poor in Ohio. She has no idea she has been sleeping next to the sole heir of the Thorne family fortune for 15 years. I gasped. Thorne. Leo paused the video. Do you know that name? Mom? I shook my head, my mind racing. No. Who are the Thornes? They are Texas Oil, Leo said. He opened a new browser tab and pulled up a Wikipedia page. Thorne Petroleum, worth billions. The patriarch, Jeremiah Thorne, died 10 years ago. He was known for having a chaotic personal life. Leo played the video again. $50 million, Marcus said on the screen, swirling his drink. Tax-free structure, plus the accumulated interest. It all becomes mine next Tuesday. But there is a catch. The morality clause. I know, Ivy said, rolling her eyes. You have to be a family man or purely single. No messy divorces pending. No scandals. Exactly, Marcus said. That is why I have to clean house first. I take the cash we have now. Leave Quinn destitute, so she cannot afford a lawyer to freeze anything. And vanish. By the time she figures out how to serve me divorce papers, I will have already claimed the trust as a single man who was abandoned by his wife. Or, if I time it right, I claim it while we are technically still married, but she is effectively gone. You are a genius, Ivy cooed, kissing his neck. I am a Thorne. Marcus corrected her. We take what we want. I sat back in the chair, the revelation hitting me harder than the theft of the savings. My husband was not a struggling corporate climber. He was a secret multimillionaire. For 15 years, he had watched me clip coupons. He had watched me stress over tuition increases. He had let me worry about retirement, all while he knew that a $50 million check was waiting for him, a check he intended to keep entirely for himself. He did not just steal our past. He had been hoarding a future that belonged to us, to Leo, and hiding it. He is illegitimate, Leo said, analyzing the data on the screen. I dug into the birth records. Marcus is Jeremiah Thorne's son from an affair with a maid. The family paid him off to stay quiet, but the old man felt guilty. He set up the trust, but he locked it until Marcus turned 40, assuming by then he would have matured. Leo looked at me. He needs the physical key to open the account, and he needs to prove his identity and status. He has the key, I said, feeling defeated. He emptied the safe. Leo's lips curled into a very small, very cold smile. He thinks he has the key. Leo reached into his desk drawer. He pulled out a dirty gray plastic object. It was the memory card slot cover from his old PlayStation 2 console, the one Marcus had thrown in the garbage box 2 days ago, yelling that Leo needed to grow up. Leo pried the plastic casing open with his fingernail. Inside, taped to the back of the plastic, was a small silver USB drive with the Thorne family crest engraved on it. I found this in the safe a year ago when I was looking for my passport for the school trip. Leo said, I didn't know what it was, but it looked important. So I swapped it with a dummy drive I loaded with a corrupted Linux kernel. Marcus has the fake one. I looked at the silver drive. It was the key to $50 million. It was the key to our survival. He cannot access the money without this. Leo said, and he cannot come back here to get it because of the police warrants we are going to ensure happen eventually. No, I said. A cold clarity washed over me. The tears stopped. The fear evaporated, replaced by a burning, focused hatred. If we go to the police now, the trust might get frozen in litigation for years. The Thorne family lawyers will swarm in. We will end up with nothing. I looked at the screen, at the paused image of Marcus and Ivy laughing at my expense. He wants to play games. I stood up, smoothing down my shirt. He wants to talk about being a thorn fine. I picked up the silver USB drive. It felt heavy in my hand, cold. Leo, I said, looking at my son, can you access his flight logs? Do you know exactly where they are? Leo turned back to his screens. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. Omnicorp provided him a corporate travel account he thinks is closed. I can reactivate the back-end access. Give me 10 minutes. Good, I said. Find out where they are. We are not going to call the police. Not yet. I stared at the image of my husband. He emptied our account for his mistress. I am going to empty his trust fund for my freedom. Mom, Leo asked, looking up. Get the location. Leo, I said, we have a birthday party to crash. The rage that washed over me was not hot like fire. It was absolute zero. It froze my tears instantly. I stared at the silver USB drive in my hand, the object that represented $50 million of potential future. And then I looked at the empty safe where my grandmother's jewelry used to be. Marcus was not just a cheater, he was a sociopath. He had been sitting on a winning lottery ticket for 15 years, a secret birthright that could have secured our son's future for generations. Yet, he chose to starve us. He chose to steal the $500,000 we had scraped together, money that represented my skipped vacations and budget grocery trips, just to hurt me. He did not need that money. He took it because he wanted to leave me broken. He wanted to burn the bridge. I was going to make sure he drowned in the river beneath it. I looked at Leo. My son was no longer the quiet boy who played video games in the dark. He was a soldier reporting for duty. Tell me everything. I said, no more secrets. Leo spun his chair around to face me. He looked older than 14. I am not just a gamer. Mom, I am a white hat hacker. I do bug bounties for tech companies. I find holes in their security, report them, and they pay me. That is how I bought this rig. He gestured to the wall of monitors. That is how I knew how to track Dad. He took a breath, organizing his thoughts. I have been inside his digital life for a year. I know about the Thorn Trust. I found the digital copies of the will in his hidden cloud drive. Leo pulled up a document on the center screen. It was a scanned PDF, dense with legal jargon. He highlighted a paragraph in yellow. Here is the mechanism, Leo explained, his voice clinical. The Thorn Trust is a fortress. Old man Jeremiah Thorn did not trust anyone. To unlock the funds, the beneficiary. Marcus must appear in person at the private bank in Miami on his 40th birthday. He needs 2 things. First, he needs to pass a retinal scan. He has his eyes, I said bitterly. Second, Leo continued, he needs the hard key. That is the USB drive you are holding. It contains a cryptographic key that matches the bank's server. Without it, the account remains locked forever. I squeezed the drive tight. And he thinks he has it. He has a copy I made, Leo said, a smirk touching the corner of his mouth. I bought an identical drive on eBay. I loaded it with a nasty little payload I wrote. It looks like the real key file. But when he plugs it into the bank's network, it is not going to unlock the money. It is going to try to execute a script. The bank's security will block it, obviously, but it will buy us confusion. It will buy us time. Leo scrolled down to another highlighted section of the will. But here is the real weapon. Mom. The morality clause. I leaned in, reading the legal text. The beneficiary must be of sound moral standing. If married, he must present spousal consent and proof of a stable union. If divorced, he must provide a finalized decree proving no financial misconduct. If single, he must have no pending litigation or public scandals regarding his character. I sat back, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. He is trapped. I whispered, exactly, Leo said. He is lying to the trustees. He probably told them you died, or that you are amicably separated. If you file for divorce today, right now, the system flags him. The trust goes into probate. The lawyers get rich. and we get nothing. And if he gets the money, I said, thinking it through, he disappears. Even if I sue him later, good luck extraditing him from whatever non-extradition island he buys. So we cannot divorce him yet, Leo said, and we cannot call the police yet. If the cops arrest him for theft before his birthday, he violates the morality clause. The money goes to the secondary heir. Who is the secondary heir? I asked. Leo pointed a thumb at his own chest. Me, but I cannot access it until I'm 21, and we need money now. The plan formed in my mind with terrifying clarity. It was dangerous, it was illegal, and it was the only way to survive. We are going to let him think he has won, I said, my voice steady. We are going to let him walk into that bank. We are going to let him think he is about to become a king. And then, we are going to take the crown. How Leo asked, I am still his wife. I said, I am the co-signer on that trust release. Even if he thinks he can bypass me, we need to be in Miami. We need to intercept him at the finish line. Miami is across the country, Leo said, and we have $200. I stood up. Get to work on his accounts. I need you to find out exactly where he is staying. Hack the hotel if you have to. Find out who he is talking to. I need leverage. Where are you going? Leo asked, as I headed for the door. I am going to finance our war. I said. I went to my closet. It was a graveyard of my former life. The silk dresses I wore to his company parties. The designer handbags he bought me as apology gifts every time he missed a birthday or an anniversary. I used to look at them as symbols of his love. Now, I saw them for what they were: hush money. I grabbed a large suitcase. I started pulling things off the shelves. The limited edition Hermes Birkin he gave me 5 years ago, worth $20,000 easily. The Chanel flat bag, the vintage Louis Vuitton trunk. I stripped the hangers of every designer coat and evening gown. I did not feel sentimental. I felt like a butcher sharpening knives. These were not clothes. They were ammunition. I dragged the heavy suitcase down the stairs and wrestled it into the trunk of my car. I drove to a high-end consignment boutique in downtown Seattle, a place called The Vault. I knew the owner, a sharp-eyed woman named Elena. I had bought half of these things from her when I walked in, disheveled, with no makeup and a manic look in my eyes. Elena looked concerned. Quinn, she asked, are you all right? I slammed the suitcase onto the counter. I need to sell. All of it. Cash. Today. Elena opened the suitcase. Her eyebrows shot up. Quinn. The Birkin alone. This is a lot of inventory. I usually do consignment. 60-40 split when it sells. I do not have time for consignment, I said, leaning over the counter. I need a buyout. Right now. Give me 40% of the market value for the whole lot. Cash. Elena hesitated. She was a businesswoman. She knew she was looking at a massive profit margin. I can't do cash for that amount. It's too much. Wire it, I said. Not to the joint account. I have a dormant account from before I was married. I will give you the routing number. It took an hour of haggling and authentication. I walked out of that store lightheaded, my closet empty. But my old personal account, which had sat with $5 in it for 15 years, now held $35,000. It was not $500,000, but it was enough to get to Miami. It was enough to buy equipment. It was enough to look like a player, not a victim. I drove home, stopping only to buy 3 burner phones and a stack of prepaid SIM cards. When I walked back into the house, Leo was exactly where I left him. But the screens were different. They were filled with maps and chat logs. I found them, Leo said without turning around. They are at the Azure Coast Resort in South Beach. Penthouse suite. $4,000 a night. Of course they are, I said, throwing a burner phone onto his desk. Use this from now on. We are ghosting the old numbers. Leo picked up the phone, nodding. Then he turned to me, his expression grim. Mom, there is something else. I ran a deep background check on Ivy. Marcus is not the only one keeping secrets. He clicked a window open. It was a mugshot. The woman in the photo looked younger. Her hair was dark instead of blonde, and she looked harder, meaner, but it was definitely Ivy. Her real name is Sarah Jenkins, Leo said. but she goes by Ivy LeClaire, Ivy Stone, and Ivy Thorne. Wait, no, she hasn't used Thorne yet. She is a con artist. I breathed. A professional. Leo corrected. She is wanted by the FBI for wire fraud in Nevada and romance scams in California. She targets wealthy men, gets access to their accounts, cleans them out, and vanishes. She usually works with a partner, but she seems to be flying solo on this one. I stared at the screen. A strange, twisted laugh bubbled up in my throat. Marcus thinks he found his soulmate, I said. He thinks he found a woman who understands his ambition. He found a shark bigger than him, Leo said. She does not care about his trust fund waiting until next week. She is trying to get into his current accounts right now. I can see the login attempts on his shadow ledger. Does she know he is broke, I asked. Not yet, Leo said. She thinks he has the $500,000 he stole from us plus whatever millions he bragged about. She is waiting for the right moment to strip him clean. This changed everything. We were not just fighting Marcus. We were walking into a pit of vipers. Marcus was trying to scam the trust. Ivy was trying to scam Marcus. And we were coming to burn the whole pit down. He does not know, I asked. No, Leo said. I checked his search history. He is too busy searching for luxury yachts and non-extradition countries. He didn't bother to Google the woman carrying his child. Good, I said. The plan in my head shifted, evolved. It became sharper. We are not going to warn him. We are going to use her. How do you use her? Leo asked. Ivy wants money, I said, pacing the room. She is greedy. Greed makes people sloppy. If she thinks Marcus is holding out on her, she will turn on him. We are going to make them paranoid. We are going to make them eat each other. I looked at the time. It was 7 p.m. Pack your bags. Leo, I said, only the essentials. We are leaving tonight. We drive to Portland, fly out of there so we are not on the Seattle flight manifests. We need to be in Miami by tomorrow morning. Leo stood up. He looked at the house one last time. We are never coming back here. Are we? No. I said, this house is dead. We are going to get our money back. Leo, and then we are going to build something that no one can ever take away from us. I went to the kitchen and grabbed the one thing I had left behind, the wedding photo Marcus had smashed out of its frame to get to the safe. I looked at his smiling face, the face of the man I had loved for half my life. I tore the photo in half. I dropped his side into the trash compactor and listened to the satisfying crunch as the machine crushed it into garbage. I put my half of the photo the side with me, young and hopeful, into my pocket. That girl was gone. But the woman who replaced her was worth $50 million, and she was coming to collect. The glow of the monitors was the only light left in our hollowed-out home. We were still in Seattle, sitting in the darkness of Leo's room, surrounded by packed bags, counting down the minutes until we had to leave for the airport. But digitally, we were already in Miami. On the center screen, a live feed from the Azure Coast Resort showed my husband. He was sitting on the balcony of the penthouse suite, a glass of champagne in his hand, looking out at the ocean. He looked like a man without a care in the world. He looked like a man who had successfully shed his old skin. He is plugging it in, Leo said, his voice dropping to a whisper. I leaned forward. On the screen, Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out the silver USB drive, the fake one Leo had planted. He inserted it into his sleek, ultra-thin laptop. Here we go, Leo muttered. Payload delivery in 3, 2, 1. Nothing dramatic happened on the screen. Marcus just typed his password, frowned slightly as if the computer had hiccuped, and then continued working. But on Leo's monitors, a cascade of green text began to scroll rapidly down the side terminal. We are in, Leo said, cracking his knuckles. Keylogger is active. Remote administration tool is installed. I own his machine. It was terrifyingly simple. My husband thought he was accessing a secure partition to check the countdown on his trust fund. In reality, he had just invited his son into the nerve center of his life. Show me his emails, I said. Leo brought up Marcus's private Gmail account, the one I never knew existed. There were dozens of threads. but the most recent one was with a man named Arthur P. Sterling, the trustee of the Thorne estate. I read the email Marcus had sent 2 hours ago. Dear Arthur, regarding the final disbursement meeting on Tuesday, I regret to inform you that my wife, Quinn, will not be joining us. She has been battling a severe, early-onset cognitive decline and is currently in a residential care facility in Oregon. Her doctors have advised against travel. As her power of attorney, I will be signing the spousal waiver on her behalf. Attached is the medical certificate. I felt the blood drain from my face. Cognitive decline. He forged a doctor's note. Leo said, opening the attachment. It looks authentic. Letterhead from a real neurology clinic. He really thought of everything. He is declaring me incompetent, so he does not need my signature. I said, my voice trembling with rage. He is not just leaving me. He is erasing my sanity. Keep reading. Leo said. I scrolled down. The lawyer had replied, understood. Mr. Everly, we will have the waiver ready. As long as you present the hard key and pass the retinal scan, the transfer of $50 million will proceed as scheduled. $50 million. Seeing the number written out in black and white made my stomach turn. Check his other tabs. I commanded. Leo switched views. Marcus had a banking window open. He was moving the last of our stolen savings, the $500,000, into a new account. But the account name was not his. It was under a shell company called Blue Horizon Imports. Wait, I said, grabbing Leo's shoulder. Stop there. Blue Horizon Imports. I know that name. My mind flashed back 3 years. I was still doing freelance auditing work occasionally, just to keep my license active. Marcus had asked me to look over some spreadsheets for a client of his at Omnicorp. He said it was just a favor. The company was Blue Horizon. Pull up the transaction history for that account. I told Leo. Leo's fingers flew across the mechanical keyboard. The spreadsheet filled the screen. I scanned the numbers with the eyes of the auditor I used to be. The pattern was unmistakable. Small deposits, all just under $10,000 to avoid federal reporting triggers. Immediate transfers out to offshore entities in the Caymans and Panama. Invoices for consulting services that were perfectly round numbers. This is not savings, I whispered. This is layering. He is washing money. He is laundering, Leo asked. Yes, I said, tracing the lines on the screen. He was not just a logistics manager. Leo, he was moving dirty money for someone, probably a local gang or a cartel looking to clean their street cash through a legitimate shipping company. That is why he was so stressed last year. That is why he needed the business trips to Chicago. I looked at the screen with a new understanding. Marcus was not just a bad husband. He was a criminal, and he had mixed our stolen life savings with dirty money. If the FBI catches him, Leo said, they seize everything, including the trust fund. Not if we get to it first, I said, but this is leverage. If he refuses to cooperate later, we have the nuclear option. I looked at the live feed again. Ivy had walked out onto the balcony. She was wearing a silk robe. I recognized it was mine. She was drinking from his glass. They looked like the perfect power couple. She thinks she won the jackpot. I said, let's shake the jar. What do you want to do? Leo asked. I pulled one of the burner phones from my bag. I am going to become Marcus. Leo, can you spoof an email from his work address? The one he thinks is secure. Easy, Leo said. Draft an email to Ivy's personal account. I said, subject line, post payout plans. Make it look like he accidentally CC'd her, or forwarded a thread he meant for his lawyer. I dictated the text while Leo typed. Arthur, once the $50 million clears on Tuesday, I need you to execute the separation agreement immediately. I am going to give Ivy the agreed-upon settlement of $100,000 and the condo in Miami. It should be enough to keep her quiet. I cannot have her tagging along to Europe. She is fun for now, but she is a liability for the long term. Make sure the NDA is ironclad. Leo looked at me, grinning. That is evil. Mom, send it. I said. Leo hit enter. We watched the screen. On the balcony. Ivy's phone lit up on the table. She picked it up. I saw her posture stiffen. She swiped the screen. She read, then she read it again. She looked up at Marcus, who was staring at the ocean, oblivious. The look on her face transformed. The loving mistress vanished. In her place was a cold, calculating predator. She put the phone down. Face down. She smiled at Marcus. But it was a shark's smile. She ran a hand down his back, and I saw her eyes narrow. She took the bait. Leo said, "Now let's see what she does." I said, "Leo opened a new window. I hacked the hotel's smart room system while you were dictating. I have access to the thermostat, the lights, and the ambient microphone in the Alexa device on the nightstand. We can hear them." He turned up the volume. The sound of wind and distant traffic filled our room, followed by the clear voices of my husband and his mistress. So happy. "Baby," Ivy was saying. Her voice was sugary sweet, a stark contrast to the look I had just seen on her face. "Just think. Next week, we will be free and rich," Marcus replied. "I cannot wait to show you Paris. We will stay at the Ritz." "Paris sounds amazing," Ivy said. "I was thinking, though, maybe we should transfer the funds to a joint account immediately. You know, for tax reasons. My accountant said it is safer." Marcus laughed. It was a patronizing sound. "Don't worry your pretty head about taxes, Ivy. I have Arthur handling it. The money stays in the trust account until we settle in Zurich." "Right," Ivy said. "Of course." There was a silence, then the sound of a shower running. "He is in the bathroom," Leo noted. On the video feed, we saw Ivy move. She did not go to the bathroom. She went straight to Marcus's laptop. "Watch this," Leo whispered. Ivy pulled a small flash drive from her purse. It was tiny, easily concealable. She plugged it into the side of Marcus's laptop. Leo's fingers flew across his own keyboard. "Whoa, she is running a script. What is she doing?" I asked. "She is installing spyware," Leo said, his voice full of professional admiration. "It is a commercially available keylogger, not as sophisticated as mine, but effective. She is trying to steal his passwords. She is trying to drain the account before he does." I realized, "She does not know the account is empty yet," Leo said. "She thinks the 500,000 is in there. She is trying to get the credentials for the Blue Horizon account." We watched as Ivy waited for the progress bar on her screen. She looked over her shoulder at the bathroom door nervously when the install finished. She yanked the drive out and sat back down on the sofa, picking up a magazine just as Marcus walked out, drying his hair with a towel. "They are eating each other," I said. "Marcus is planning to dump her. She is planning to rob him, and neither of them knows we are watching." "This is better than a movie," Leo said. "It is about to get better." I said, "Go into the Blue Horizon account, the one Marcus just moved our money into." "I am there," Leo said. "Can you freeze it?" I asked. "I cannot freeze it legally," Leo said, "but I can trigger a security flag. I can make the bank think the account has been compromised by a foreign IP address. They will lock it automatically for 48 hours pending identity verification." "Do it," I said. Leo typed a command. "Done. Access denied." On the screen. Marcus sat down at his laptop. He frowned. He clicked the mouse furiously. "What is wrong?" Ivy asked, looking up from her magazine. "Nothing," Marcus snapped. "Just a glitch with the bank portal. It says account locked." "Locked," Ivy's voice went up an octave. "What do you mean, locked?" "It is fine," Marcus said, though I could hear the panic rising in his throat. "It is just a security protocol. I will call them in the morning. It is probably because I logged in from a new location." "Are you sure?" Ivy asked. She stood up and walked over to him, peering at the screen. I knew what she was thinking. She was thinking her payday was trapped. She was thinking he was lying to her again. "I said it is fine," Marcus yelled. Ivy recoiled. It was the first time he had raised his voice at her. "Okay," she said softly. "I believe you." But the look in her eyes said otherwise. She walked to the minibar and poured herself a drink, her hand shaking slightly. She was calculating. She was realizing that her window of opportunity was closing. "She is going to make a move," I predicted. "She won't wait for Tuesday. If she thinks the money is unstable, she will try to take whatever she can get her hands on tonight. She can't take what isn't accessible, Leo said, but she can steal his physical assets. Watch her eyes. She is looking at his watch, his wallet. We need to be there, I said, standing up. We need to be on the ground before this implodes. If she robs him and runs, she might take the trust key with her, thinking it is valuable, the fake key. Leo reminded me, she does not know it is fake. I said, if she takes it, Marcus can't open the trust on Tuesday, and if he can't open it, we can't steal it. It was a delicate house of cards. We needed Marcus to have the key on his birthday. We needed Ivy to stay put until the trap was sprung, and we needed to keep them both paranoid enough to make mistakes, but not so panicked that they bolted. Pack the gear. I told Leo, we are leaving now. We carried our bags out to the car in the rain. I took one last look at the house. It was a shell. My life there was a shell. I locked the front door and dropped the key under the mat. It didn't matter anymore. As we drove toward the highway, Leo monitored the feed on his tablet. Mom, he said, Ivy is texting someone. Who, unknown number? Leo said, but the message is interesting. She wrote, the mark is getting shaky. Funds might be frozen. Prepare the exit strategy for tomorrow. I might need a pickup. She has an accomplice. I said, I knew it. We are flying into a war zone. Leo said, good, I said, gripping the steering wheel. I brought ammunition. I touched the pocket where the real trust key sat warm against my hip. We were two tiny figures driving through the dark, armed with nothing but a laptop and a grudge, heading to intercept a collision between a millionaire fraudster and a professional grifter. The game had changed. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was a race, and I was driving fast. The humidity in Miami was a physical weight, but the air inside the Azure Coast Resort was chilled to a crisp 68 degrees. I walked through the lobby, my heels sinking slightly into the plush carpet, wearing a white silk suit that cost more than my first car. I did not look like Quinn Everly, the housewife who clipped coupons in Seattle. I looked like money, old money, the kind of money that does not shout, but whispers commands. To pull this off, the cash from my sold wardrobe had not been enough. I needed to project billionaire status, not just millionaire. I had made a call from the airport in Portland to Julian, an old friend from my university days who now ran a hedge fund in New York. I told him I was in a bind and needed a wire of $50,000 for 48 hours. I told him I would pay him back double. Julian, who had always had a soft spot for me, and who knew I was good for it because I had saved him from an IRS audit 10 years ago, didn't ask questions. He wired the funds to my new clean account. With that war chest, I rented the suite 2 floors below Marcus and bought the kind of jewelry that catches the light in a dark bar. I adjusted the earpiece hidden under my freshly cut, sleek bob. Check one, I murmured, touching the pearl earring, loud and clear. Leo's voice came back. He was sitting in our hotel room, surrounded by his portable command center. Target is at the Sapphire Bar. She is alone. Marcus is still in the room, screaming at his bank on the phone. Perfect, I said. I glided into the Sapphire Bar. It was dimly lit, smelling of leather and expensive scotch. I spotted Ivy immediately. She was sitting at a high-top table near the window, nursing a mojito. She looked bored. She was checking her phone every 10 seconds. I signaled the bartender. A dry martini, I said. Grey Goose, 3 olives. I moved toward Ivy's table, pretending to scan the room for someone. Then, I let my gaze land on her. I paused, letting a flicker of recognition cross my face, not of her, but of the situation. Excuse me, I said, my voice smooth and low. I hate to bother you, but you look incredibly familiar. Were you at the tech summit in Davos last year? Ivy looked up, startled. She smoothed her hair, her eyes scanning my outfit, pricing my watch. My shoes? She liked what she saw. She saw a peer, or perhaps a mark. No, Ivy said, smiling that practiced, shark-like smile. I think you have me confused with someone else. I am Ivy. Pity, I said, resting my hand on the back of the empty chair opposite her. You have that look. Sharp, dangerous. I extended a hand. Veronica Stone, Apex Capital. Ivy's eyes widened slightly. Apex Capital was a name I made up, but it sounded like exactly the kind of firm she would want to know. Nice to meet you, she said. I am in import-export. Fascinating, I said, taking a sip of my martini. I am actually here doing some due diligence on a potential acquisition, a logistics company. Actually, the reason I approached you is that I saw you earlier with a man. Tall, dark hair. Looks like he carries the weight of the world on his shoulders. Ivy stiffened. Marcus. Yes, he is my fiancé. I let out a short, sharp laugh. It was a cruel sound, one that invited conspiracy. Fiancé. Honey, you are brave. Ivy's smile faltered. What do you mean, Marcus Everly? I said, saying his name as if it were a bad taste in my mouth. My firm looked into him 6 months ago. We were going to offer him a partnership. Then we ran the financials. I took another sip, letting the silence stretch. I could see the greed and fear warring behind Ivy's eyes. She leaned in. What about the financials, she asked, trying to sound casual. He is insolvent. I lied. The lie rolled off my tongue like truth because, in a way, it was about to be true. Technically, he is worse than insolvent. He is a liability sinkhole. We found out that the famous Thorn Trust he brags about, it is real. Sure, but it is not a pot of gold. It is a debt shield. A debt shield, Ivy whispered. The old man, Jeremiah Thorne, was not just rich. He was leveraged to the hilt. I explained, spinning the web. The trust was designed to dump 40 years of toxic assets and tax liens onto the beneficiary. Whoever activates that trust on their 40th birthday inherits about $10 million in cash. Yes, but they also inherit $60 million in outstanding debts to the IRS and foreign creditors. That is why the other Thorne children renounced it. Marcus is the only one desperate enough to take the bait. Ivy's face went pale. The glass shook in her hand. But he said it was $50 million clear. Of course he did, I said, leaning closer, my voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. He needs a partner to share the bankruptcy filing. Or better yet, he needs a spouse to pin the debt on. In Texas, debt acquired during marriage is community property, if he marries you, or even establishes a common law intent. Half that $60 million becomes yours. I sat back, examining my fingernails. If I were you, I would check the paperwork he asks you to sign, especially if he asks for any bridge loans or transfers before the birthday. He is probably trying to liquidate whatever liquidity he has left before the creditors seize it on Tuesday. He asked me to wait, Ivy murmured, talking to herself more than me. He said the money unlocks Tuesday. Tuesday is not payday, I said coldly. Tuesday is foreclosure day. Leo, I thought, now. A second later, Ivy's phone buzzed on the table. She looked down. It was a notification Leo had spoofed to look like it came from a private investigator service, the kind of service a woman like Ivy would subscribe to. Subject alert. Asset movement. Ivy picked up the phone. I watched her pupils dilate. What does it say? I asked, feigning polite disinterest. Ivy did not answer. She was reading the text Leo had crafted, urgent. Target, Marcus Everly has initiated a deed transfer for all offshore holdings to the estate of Martha Everly. Status pending. Note, Martha Everly is deceased. This is a classic dead-drop dump to hide assets. That bastard. Ivy hissed. Everything okay? I asked. He is moving the money, Ivy said, her voice trembling with rage. He is moving it to a dead woman. Classic, I said, signaling for the check, hiding the last few pennies before the implosion. Well, Veronica's advice. Get what is yours and get out, before the feds freeze the room service. At that moment, Marcus walked into the bar. He looked terrible. His tie was loosened, his hair was messy, and there was a sheen of sweat on his forehead. He scanned the room, spotted Ivy, and marched over. He didn't even look at me. To him, I was just background noise, another wealthy woman in a resort full of them. He had never seen me like this in this hair, in these clothes, radiating this kind of cold power. Ivy, Marcus said, his voice tight. We need to talk. Upstairs. Ivy looked at him. She looked at the man she thought was her ticket to paradise. And now, thanks to me, saw an anchor that was about to drag her to the bottom of the ocean. Everything all right? Darling Ivy asked. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were dead. Just a small hiccup with the bank, Marcus said, forcing a smile that looked like a grimace. My card got declined at the front desk. Probably just a fraud alert because we are traveling. Can you put the dinner on your card? I will wire you the cash in the morning. I saw Ivy's hand clench around her phone. It was the confirmation she needed. My story was real to her now. He was broke. He was asking her to pay. Of course, baby, Ivy said. She handed the waiter her card, but I saw her other hand sliding into her purse, gripping something tight. Let's go upstairs. They walked away. Marcus was talking rapidly, gesturing with his hands. Ivy was silent, walking a step behind him, watching him like a vulture waiting for the animal to stop moving. I finished my martini. Leo, I said into the earpiece. Did you send the package to Marcus sent? Leo replied. He should be getting it right now. I watched them reach the elevator. Marcus stopped. He pulled his phone out of his pocket. Leo had triggered a catastrophic alert on Marcus's phone. It was a spoofed email from the Bank of the Caymans, the bank where Marcus thought he had hidden our stolen $500,000. Subject account seizure notice. Body, dear customer. Pursuant to an international money laundering investigation, your assets and account ending in 4922 have been frozen indefinitely. Please contact the Department of Justice for further inquiries. I saw Marcus stumble. He actually grabbed the wall to steady himself. The color drained from his face, leaving him gray. Marcus, Ivy asked, touching his arm. He jerked away from her. He shoved the phone into his pocket, his eyes darting around the lobby as if he expected FBI agents to jump out from behind the potted palms. It is nothing, he stammered. Just work. Stupid work emails. He was lying. Ivy knew he was lying. I knew he was lying. He is terrified, Leo said in my ear. His heart rate monitor on his smartwatch just spiked to 140. Good. I said, let them simmer. I signed the check for my drink, tipping the bartender $100. I walked out of the bar, passing the elevator bank just as the doors closed on my husband and his mistress. They were trapped in a metal box together, each believing the other was the enemy, each believing the walls were closing in. I went back to our room. Leo was sitting on the bed, his laptop open. He looked up at me, grinning. That was cold. Mom, he said, that was business. I replied. I took off the diamond earrings and placed them on the nightstand. Now comes the hard part. We have to wait. We have audio, Leo said. He bugged the room again. He turned up the speaker. Why is your card declined? Marcus Ivy's voice was shrill. You said you had liquid cash. I do, Marcus yelled. It is just a glitch. Why do you not believe me? Because you are acting like a frightened rat, Ivy shouted back. And I saw the email. Marcus, I saw the transfer to your mother's estate. What? Marcus sounded genuinely confused. I didn't transfer anything to my mother. She has been dead for 20 years. Don't lie to me, Ivy screamed. There was a sound of glass shattering. You are trying to cut me out. You are trying to dump the debt on me. Debt? What debt? Marcus was frantic. I am worth $50 million. You are worth nothing, Ivy yelled. Veronica told me everything. Who the hell is Veronica? Marcus screamed. The woman from Apex Capital. She knows about the tax liens. Marcus, she knows the trust is a trap. There was a silence on the tape. A long, heavy silence. There is no Veronica, Marcus said, his voice low and dangerous. There are no liens. Who are you talking to? Don't gaslight me, Ivy said. I want my share. Marcus, I want the $100,000 you promised me for the move. I want it now, in cash, or jewelry. I am not waiting for Tuesday. I don't have it, Marcus roared. My accounts are frozen, aha. Ivy shouted. So you are broke. I looked at Leo. We didn't need to do anything else. The seeds had taken root. They were tearing each other apart. "She is going to rob him tonight," Leo said. "She thinks he is hiding assets in the room. She will take the watch," I predicted, "the laptop, and she might take the USB drive, thinking she can ransom it or sell it. If she takes the drive, we have a problem," Leo said. "No," I said, sitting down on the edge of the bed. "If she takes the drive, Marcus will be desperate. He will be on his knees, and that is exactly where I need him to be when I walk through that door." "You are going in there?" Leo asked. "Not yet," I said. "We let Ivy finish her work. We let her strip him of his dignity. Then, when he is alone and empty, I will come to collect." I looked at the clock. It was 11 at night. Tuesday, his birthday, was only 25 hours away. "Get some sleep." "Leo," I said, "tomorrow, we steal a fortune." But neither of us slept. We sat in the dark, listening to the muffled sounds of our enemies destroying each other, waiting for the sunrise that would bring our reckoning. Tuesday morning broke over Miami with a blinding, relentless heat, but inside the private wealth division of Sterling Vance, the air was refrigerated to a tomb-like stillness. I sat in a black sedan parked 2 blocks away, watching the entrance through tinted windows. Leo was beside me, his laptop glowing in the dim interior of the car, cables running from his machine to a high-gain antenna we had mounted on the dashboard. "He is going in," Leo said, his eyes fixed on the screen. I looked up. Marcus stepped out of a taxi. He looked immaculate in a navy bespoke suit. But I knew him better than anyone. I saw the tension in his shoulders. I saw the way he patted his breast pocket 3 times in 5 seconds. Checking for the USB drive, he was a man walking a tightrope over a pit of vipers. He had left Ivy back at the hotel, likely sedated or stalled with a lie about a business meeting so he could secure his fortune alone. "Comms check," I said, tapping the microscopic earpiece hidden under my hair. "I hear you," Leo said. "I am tracking his phone and the beacon in the fake USB drive. He is entering the elevator. Destination 30th floor. Is the payload ready?" I asked. "The script is primed," Leo replied, his fingers dancing across the mechanical keys. "The moment he plugs that drive in, I will have a bridge into the bank's internal network. But Mom, this security is military grade. If I try to reroute $50 million to an external account instantly, their AI might flag it before the transfer clears. Just get me the window," I said. "I will handle the rest." I waited 5 minutes. Then, I opened the car door. I smoothed down my skirt, a charcoal pencil skirt that screamed corporate power, and adjusted my glasses. I picked up my briefcase. Inside was not money, but a file containing the audit trail of Blue Horizon imports. "It is showtime," I whispered. I walked into the bank. The lobby was marble and glass, guarded by men who looked like retired special forces. I walked straight to the reception desk. "I am here for the Thorn Trust meeting," I said, my voice clipped and authoritative. "My name is Quinn Everly. Mr. Sterling is expecting me." The receptionist blinked, looking at her list. "Mr. Everly is already upstairs." "I do not see a +1 listed." "Check your email," I said coldly. "Mr. Sterling received my legal notice 10 minutes ago." She typed, frowned, and then her eyes widened. Leo had timed the email delivery perfectly. "Oh, I see. My apologies. Mrs. Everly, I will send you up immediately." As the elevator ascended, my heart hammered against my ribs, but my face remained a mask of ice. I was ascending to destroy the man I had once vowed to love forever. In the boardroom on the 30th floor, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Through the glass walls, I could see them before they saw me. Marcus sat at the head of a long mahogany table. Arthur Sterling, an elderly man with silver hair and a 3-piece suit, sat opposite him. Between them lay a sleek biometric scanner and a laptop. I stopped just outside the door, listening. "Happy birthday, Marcus," Arthur was saying. "Your father would be well. He would be watching. Let's just get this done." "Arthur," Marcus said. His voice was tight. "I have a plane to catch." "Procedural necessity," Arthur said. "First, The retinal scan to confirm identity. Marcus leaned forward. A beam of red light scanned his left eye, then his right. The machine beeped. Identity confirmed. Arthur said, "Marcus Thorne Everly. Now, the hard key. Please." Marcus reached into his pocket. He pulled out the silver USB drive, the dummy drive Leo had swapped weeks ago. He held it for a second, a look of reverence on his face. He thought he was holding freedom. He was holding a Trojan horse. He plugged it into the bank's laptop. "Leo, now." I whispered. Execution started. Leo's voice buzzed in my ear. "I am bypassing the air gap. I am in the print spooler. I am in the local subnet. Trying to alter the routing number." There was a pause, a long, agonizing 3 seconds. "Damn it." Leo hissed. What I asked. My hand hovering over the door handle. "Their firewall is called Ironclad," Leo said, typing furiously. "It is blocking the routing change. I cannot redirect the money to our account automatically. The transaction requires a secondary manual override from the trustee. If I force it, the alarms go off. Plan B." I said, "We do it the hard way." I pushed the heavy glass doors open. "Gentlemen," I said, my voice ringing out in the silent room, "I hope I'm not late for the party." Marcus spun around in his chair. The color drained from his face so fast he looked like a corpse. He stood up, knocking his chair over. "Quinn," he choked out, "what are you doing here?" Arthur Sterling looked from me to Marcus, confused. "Marcus, you told me your wife was in a care facility in Oregon. I made a miraculous recovery," I said, walking to the table and setting my briefcase down with a heavy thud. It is amazing what clarity a little betrayal provides. "Get out," Marcus hissed, stepping toward me. His eyes were wild. "You have no right to be here. This is my inheritance, mine." "Actually," Arthur interrupted, adjusting his glasses, "technically, under the terms of the Thorne Trust, until the funds are fully dispersed and the spousal waiver is signed. Mrs. Everly has a legal claim to be present. It is a community asset event." "She is crazy," Marcus shouted, pointing at me. "She is mentally unstable. That is why I'm leaving her. Call security." "Arthur, I wouldn't do that," I said calmly. I opened my briefcase. I pulled out a single file folder, bright red. I slid it across the mahogany table toward Arthur. "What is this?" Arthur asked. "That," I said, "is a forensic audit of a company called Blue Horizon Imports. It details 3 years of systematic money laundering, tax evasion, and wire fraud conducted by my husband using the corporate infrastructure of Omnicorp Logistics." The room went deadly silent. The only sound was the hum of the server in the corner. Marcus froze. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "I have copies," I continued, my voice steady. "1 copy is with me, 1 is with my associate outside, and 1 is scheduled to be automatically emailed to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division and the IRS Whistleblower Office in exactly 10 minutes if I do not enter a cancel code." Arthur opened the folder. He scanned the first page. His face hardened. He looked at Marcus with disgust. "Marcus, is this true? Because if the trust knowingly disperses funds to a felon involved in active money laundering, the entire estate could be seized by the federal government. It is a lie." Marcus screamed, but his voice cracked. "She forged it. The bank records are in there." "Marcus," I said, "the IP addresses, the dates. I was an auditor for 10 years. I know how to follow the money." I turned to Arthur. "Mr. Sterling, you have a choice. You can release the funds to him solely, in which case I blow the whistle. The government freezes the assets, and your firm gets investigated for aiding a criminal. Or what Marcus whispered. He looked defeated. He looked small. "Or we settle this right now." I said. I looked Marcus dead in the eye. 50-50. You transfer $25 million to my personal account immediately. I sign the spousal waiver. You take your half and leave. I burn the evidence. You get your freedom. I get mine." Marcus looked at the folder. He looked at the laptop where the $50 million sat waiting. He did the math. $25 million was still enough to live like a king. It was enough for Ivy. It was enough to disappear. Prison was 0. Fine, Marcus spat. The hatred in his eyes was toxic. Half. You take half, and you get out of my life forever. Agreed, I said. Arthur looked relieved. He wanted this over. He wanted to protect the firm. Very well. If both parties consent, we can modify the disbursement agreement. I will draft a modification of beneficiary split. Arthur typed on his keyboard. I am splitting the disbursement. $25 million to Marcus Everly. $25 million to Quinn Everly. I need to print the new agreement for signatures. Leo, I thought, are you ready? I am in the printer queue. Leo said in my ear, I see the job incoming. Modification _ split ... PDF. Swap it, I commanded silently. Intercepting Leo said, deleting original data stream, injecting new payload, replacing file with guardianship _ transfer _ v2.pdf, keeping the formatting identical, done. The large laser printer in the corner of the room whirred to life. It spat out 3 copies of a thick document. Arthur walked over, retrieved the papers, and stapled them. He did not read them. Why would he? He had just typed them himself. He trusted his own input. He did not know that in the split second between his computer and the printer, the digital reality had been rewritten. He slid the documents to Marcus. Sign here, here, and here, Arthur said, pointing to the X marks. Marcus grabbed the pen. He was shaking. He didn't read the text. He saw the header, Agreement of Asset Distribution, and the dollar amounts listed in the summary box, which Leo had kept visible to maintain the illusion. And he signed. He signed furiously, desperate to secure his $25 million. Your turn, Marcus sneered, shoving the papers at me. I took the pen. I pretended to read the first page. The text did not say that Quinn Everly would receive 50%. The text, in the fine print of Clause 4, Section B, read, the primary beneficiary, Marcus Everly, hereby voluntarily admits to financial incapacity and transfers full, irrevocable legal guardianship and control of the entire Thorn Trust corpus to the appointed guardian, Quinn Everly, for the benefit of the minor heir, Leo Everly. By signing this, Marcus wasn't splitting the money. He was declaring himself unfit and handing the keys to the castle to me. He was legally giving me everything. Thinking he was saving half, I signed my name, Quinn Everly. Done, I said, closing the folder. Arthur took the documents. I will notarize these and execute the transfers immediately. The funds should reflect in your respective accounts within the hour. Respective accounts. Leo chuckled in my ear. He means your account. Mom, both transfers are routed to the shell corporation I set up for you. Marcus stood up. He buttoned his jacket. He looked at me with a sneer of triumph. He thought he had won. He thought he had survived my ambush. You are a vulture. Quinn, he said, I hope that money keeps you warm at night, because you have nothing else. I have everything I need. I said calmly, goodbye, Marcus. He grabbed his briefcase and stormed out of the room, heading for the elevator, heading for the airport, heading for a future that no longer existed. Arthur Sterling smiled at me weakly. Well, that was unconventional, but I suppose congratulations are in order. Mrs. Everly, thank you. Arthur, I said, please ensure the wire is prioritized. Of course, he said. I walked out of the bank. The sun was shining. The humidity hit me, but I didn't feel it. I felt light. I felt weightless. I got back into the car. Leo was unplugging the cables. He looked up at me, his eyes wide. Did he sign it? Leo asked. He signed it. I said, he signed it all away. Leo laughed, a sound of pure relief. The bank just processed the command. The system accepted the document. The routing number has been updated to the guardianship account. $50 million is moving right now. And Marcus, I asked. He is hailing a cab. Leo said, pointing at the screen. He is checking his banking app. He sees the pending notification. He thinks it is his $25 million. Let him think that for another hour. I said, let him get to the hotel. Let him face Ivy. What do we do now? Leo asked. Now, I said. Starting the engine. Now we watch the finale. We pulled away from the curb, leaving the bank behind us. My husband had walked in a millionaire and walked out a pauper, and the beautiful tragedy of it was that he wouldn't know until he tried to pay the bill. The car engine was idling, the air conditioning fighting a losing battle against the midday Florida heat. But inside the cabin, the temperature felt Arctic. Leo and I sat in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner down the street from the Azure Coast Resort. On Leo's laptop screen, the video feed from the penthouse suite was crisp and clear. We watched Marcus enter the room. He did not look like a man who had just signed away half of his fortune. He looked like a man who had narrowly escaped a firing squad and believed he was the only one with a bulletproof vest. He loosened his tie, throwing it carelessly onto the sofa. He walked with a bounce in his step, the swagger of a survivor. He thought he had $25 million pending in his account. He thought he had bought my silence. "Ivy," he called out, his voice booming through our speakers. "Pack your bags." "Babe, we are leaving." I handled it. There was no answer. Marcus frowned. He walked toward the bedroom. "Ivy." "Did you hear me? I said we are leaving. The bitch my ex-wife showed up. But I fixed it. We are still rich." He pushed open the bedroom door. The room was pristine. The bed was made. But the closet door was wide open. Marcus stopped. He stared at the closet. It was empty. Ivy's clothes, her shoes, her endless collection of sun hats all gone. "What the hell?" he muttered. He moved to the dresser. He reached for his leather valet tray where he kept his daily essentials. He froze. His Patek Philippe watch, the one worth $80,000, gone. His wallet, containing his credit cards, his ID, and his driver's license, gone. His platinum wedding band, which he had taken off to sleep with her, gone. He spun around, panic starting to crack his composure. He ran to the desk where he had left his sleek silver laptop, the machine that held all his personal files, his contacts, and his access to the offshore accounts. The desk was bare. "No," Marcus whispered. "No, no, no." He saw a piece of hotel stationery propped up against the lamp. He snatched it up. Leo zoomed in with the camera so we could read the handwriting. It was jagged, hasty. "Marcus." The note read, "I met Veronica from Apex Capital. She told me everything. You are broke. You are drowning in debt. And you tried to pin it on me. You tried to use me as a shield against the IRS. I do not think so. I took the watch and the cash as payment for my time. Do not follow me. I know people who will break your legs for $500. Consider us even, Ivy." Marcus crumpled the note in his fist. He let out a primal scream, a sound of pure, impotent rage that distorted the audio feed on our end. He kicked the heavy oak desk, sending the lamp crashing to the floor. "She robbed me." He screamed at the empty room. "That stupid, greedy little parasite robbed me." He began tearing the room apart, throwing cushions, ripping sheets off the bed, as if checking to see if she had hidden his wallet under the mattress. But deep down, he knew. He had been played. The predator had been eaten by a faster, hungrier shark. "He thinks he is broke," Leo said, watching his father destroy the hotel room. "He thinks Ivy took everything because there is no money coming." "Wait for it," I said, my eyes fixed on the screen. "He still has his phone. He will check the bank," as if on cue. Marcus patted his pants pocket. He pulled out his phone. It was the only thing Ivy hadn't taken, likely because she didn't want him tracking her via GPS before she made her getaway. Marcus's hands were shaking so badly he dropped the phone once before managing to unlock it. He opened the banking app for the Thorn Trust account, the one Arthur Sterling had just transferred the funds to. I saw the change in his face. It was instantaneous. The rage vanished, replaced by a look of bewildered salvation. He saw the number. Balance. $50 million. He blinked. He rubbed his eyes. He laughed a hysterical, choking sound. "It is there," he whispered. "It is all there." She didn't take it. The transfer went through. He started pacing the room, holding the phone like a holy relic. "I am rich. I am still rich. Ivy left because she thought I was broke. The idiot." She settled for a watch when she could have had millions. He sat down on the edge of the ruined bed. Okay, okay, I can fix this. I have the money. I just need to move it before Quinn tries anything else. I need to get it out of the country. He tapped the screen. Leo, I said, is the trap active? Active and locked. Leo replied. Watch. On the screen. Marcus frowned. He tapped the screen again. Harder this time. What is this? He muttered. He stared at the phone. Why is it grayed out? He tried to initiate a transfer. A notification popped up on his screen. I couldn't see the text from the camera angle, but I knew exactly what it said because I had dictated it to Leo the night before. Error 403. Restricted access. Transaction denied. Account is under legal guardianship. Please contact the account administrator for authorization. Marcus stared at the words. Guardianship, he tried again. He tried to transfer a single dollar. Denied. He tried to pay the hotel bill using the linked debit card in his digital wallet. Denied. He stood up, the phone trembling in his hand. What is going on? I signed the split. Arthur said it was $25 million. It was time. I picked up my burner phone. I dialed his number. On the screen, I saw Marcus's phone ring. He looked at the caller ID. He hesitated, then answered, shoving the phone against his ear. Quinn, he roared. What did you do? Why can't I move my money? Your money, I asked, my voice calm, cool, and detached. I think you are confused. Marcus, you do not have any money. I am looking at $50 million in my account right now, he screamed. It is right there. Read the account status. Marcus, I said, look at the account holder name. He pulled the phone away from his ear, switching to speaker so he could look at the app while yelling at me. He navigated to the account details page. Account name, the Leo Everly. Future trust. Primary guardian administrator Quinn Everly. Beneficiary status. Minor access restricted until age 21. Marcus went pale. He sank to his knees on the carpet, surrounded by the debris of his tantrum. What is this? He whispered. I signed a split agreement. Arthur printed it right in front of me. You signed a modification of guardianship. Marcus, I corrected him. Clause 4. You voluntarily admitted to financial incapacity, which, given your money laundering history, was quite prudent of you, and you transferred full executive control of the trust to me. No, he gasped. No, that is impossible. I read the header. You read what we wanted you to read. I said, Leo is very good with computers. Marcus, you should have spent more time getting to know your son. You might have learned that he can hack a printer queue faster than you can sign your name. You tricked me, Marcus screamed. The sound was raw, tearing at his throat. This is fraud. I will call the police. I will tell Arthur. Go ahead. I said, call Arthur. Tell him you want to contest the document you signed in front of witnesses and a notary, and while you are at it. I will go ahead and release that red folder to the FBI, the one about Blue Horizon imports. Marcus went silent. The threat of prison was the only thing that could choke his greed. You cannot do this. He wept. It was a pathetic sound. Quinn, please, I have nothing. Ivy took my wallet. She took my ID. I can't even check out of this hotel. I can't fly home. I know. I said, Ivy was very thorough. She is a professional. After all, I merely pointed her in the right direction. You told her Marcus asked. His voice full of betrayal. You set her on me. I gave her a better offer. I said, I told her the ship was sinking. She did what rats do. She jumped. Quinn, he pleaded, I am your husband. We were married for 15 years. You cannot leave me here like this. I have $0. I am trapped in Miami. You have $0, I repeated. That is funny, because 3 days ago, I stood in a grocery store with a cart full of food for your birthday dinner, and my card was declined. I had $0 then. Marcus, you left me with $200 and a foreclosure notice. I am sorry, he sobbed. I was confused. I was having a midlife crisis. I will make it up to you. Just unlock the account. Give me $1 million. Just $1 million to start over. Please. No. I said. The word hung in the air, heavy and final. You stole $500,000 from your wife and child. I said. my voice hardening into steel. "I took $50 million from you. That is the market interest rate for betrayal. Marcus, you wanted to be a single man with a fresh start. Congratulations. You are single, you are broke, and you are starting from nothing." "I will kill you," Marcus shrieked, the mask of the beggar falling away to reveal the monster underneath. "I will find you and I will kill you, Quinn." "You won't find anyone," I said. "You don't even have a driver's license to rent a car. You are a ghost, Marcus. And if you ever come near Leo or me again, I will send the evidence of your money laundering to the authorities so fast you won't have time to blink before you are in handcuffs." I paused, letting the reality sink in. "Enjoy the checkout process," I said. "I hear the Azure Coast Resort is very strict about unpaid bills." I hung up. On the screen, Marcus stared at the phone. He looked like a man who had been hollowed out. He threw the phone across the room. It smashed against the wall, shattering the screen, his last link to the outside world. He sat in the middle of the room, head in his hands. He was wearing a $3,000 suit, but he was poorer than the beggar on the street corner. He had no money. He had no identification. He had a hotel bill he couldn't pay. He had a mistress who had robbed him. He had a wife who had outsmarted him. And he had a son who had engineered his destruction. "He is crying," Leo said quietly. I looked at the screen. Marcus's shoulders were shaking. He was weeping, not out of remorse, but out of self-pity. He was mourning the loss of the future he felt entitled to. "Let's go," I said to Leo. "We have a flight to catch." "Where are we going?" Leo asked. "Closing the laptop?" "Anywhere we want," I said. "We have $50 million and the whole world in front of us." As we drove away, I didn't look back at the hotel. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel sadness. I felt a profound, quiet sense of balance. The scales had been tipped against me, and I had simply leveled them. But the story wasn't over yet. Marcus was down. But a cornered animal is dangerous. And I knew that while I had taken his money, the law was still coming for him. And when the law arrived, I wanted to be watching from the front row. We sat in the private VIP lounge at Miami International Airport, shielded by frosted glass and soundproof walls. The air smelled of expensive espresso and leather. Leo had his laptop open on the low mahogany table, but the screen was not facing me. He was typing with a rhythmic, mechanical intensity, like a pianist playing a requiem. We had the money. The $50 million was already bouncing through a series of secure servers in Switzerland and Singapore, untraceable and locked down. But money was only half the equation. Money gave us freedom, but it did not give us safety. As long as Marcus was free, as long as he had breath in his lungs and rage in his heart, he would hunt us. He would find a way to spin a story, to blame me, to drag us into court. We needed to bury him, not in the ground, but under the crushing weight of the United States legal system. "Is the package ready?" I asked, taking a sip of sparkling water. "Compiled and encrypted," Leo said, not looking up. "I have the Blue Horizon file. 3 years of invoices, wire transfers, and shell company registrations. I linked every single dirty transaction to Marcus's personal IP address and the digital signature he used for his work emails." "Send it," I said. Leo hit the enter key. It was a small motion, a singular click of plastic, but it initiated a nuclear strike on my husband's life. "Submission received." Leo read from the screen. "The IRS Whistleblower Office and the FBI Financial Crimes Division have acknowledged receipt of the digital evidence package. Case number generated." "He is not just a bad husband anymore," I said, staring at the runway outside where heat waves shimmered off the tarmac. "Now, he is a federal target." "I am not done." Leo said, "We have a loose end." "Ivy," I said. "She is in Terminal J," Leo said, switching windows. "She booked a one-way ticket to Sao Paulo, Brazil. Flight leaves in 40 minutes. She is trying to get to a non-extradition country before the heat comes down." "Does she have the jewelry?" I asked. I tracked her phone's location history. Leo explained. "She stopped at a pawn shop in downtown Miami an hour ago. But she didn't stay long enough to sell everything. She is likely carrying the bulk of the diamonds, your grandmother's diamonds, in her carry-on. That is grand larceny and trafficking stolen goods across international borders. Tip them off. I said, don't let her board that plane. Leo opened a secure channel to the Miami-Dade Police Department's airport division. He typed a quick, anonymous tip, attaching the police report I had filed, but had not acted on days ago regarding the theft of my jewelry. Along with Ivy's current physical description and seat number, sent, Leo said, now we watch. He pulled up the airport security feed. We watched as Ivy stood in the boarding line. She looked nervous. She was wearing oversized sunglasses and a trench coat that was too heavy for the Florida weather. She kept clutching her oversized tote bag to her chest. She looked like a woman who was running for her life. She handed her boarding pass to the attendant. The scanner beeped green. She took a step toward the jet bridge. Then, 2 uniformed TSA agents and 3 police officers stepped out from behind the podium. We saw Ivy freeze. We saw the color drain from her face, even through the grainy security footage. An officer said something to her. She shook her head violently, backing away. She clutched the bag tighter. The officer reached for her arm. Ivy screamed. We couldn't hear it, but we saw the other passengers recoil. She tried to run, a pathetic attempt to pivot on her high heels. One of the officers tackled her. The bag flew from her hands, skidding across the linoleum floor. They hauled her up, cuffing her hands behind her back. An officer opened the bag. He pulled out a velvet pouch, my velvet pouch. He poured the contents into his hand. Even on the low-resolution camera, the sparkle of my grandmother's sapphire necklace was unmistakable. They marched her away. She will talk, I said, feeling a cold satisfaction. Ivy is a survivor. The moment they charge her with grand larceny, she will trade Marcus to save herself. She will tell them everything about the money laundering, the fraud, the fake identity. She is already talking. Leo said, monitoring the police band radio frequencies. I can hear the dispatch. Suspect claims she was coerced, claims she is a victim of a financial predator named Marcus Everly. She is singing like a canary. Good. I said, now for the main event. We shifted our attention back to the Azure Coast Resort. The police dispatch was chaotic. The anonymous evidence Leo had sent to the FBI was so detailed, so undeniable, that they hadn't wasted time with a preliminary investigation. They had secured an emergency warrant. The combination of high-level money laundering and the imminent flight risk of the suspect had triggered an immediate tactical response. They are at the hotel, Leo said. On the screen, 4 unmarked black SUVs screeched to a halt in front of the resort's valet stand. Men in windbreakers with FBI emblazoned on the back jumped out. They were flanked by Miami PD officers in uniform. They swarmed the lobby. Guests scattered. The concierge looked terrified as the lead agent flashed a badge and slammed a warrant onto the marble desk. Upstairs, in the penthouse suite, Marcus was still sitting on the floor amidst the wreckage of the room. He was trying to piece together his shattered phone, desperate to make a call, desperate to find a way out. He heard the sirens. He went to the balcony. He looked down. He saw the blockade. He saw the flashing lights reflecting off the palm trees. He panicked. It was a primal, animalistic panic. He didn't think. He reacted. He ran to the door. He didn't have his wallet. He didn't have his shoes on. But he ran into the hallway. He sprinted toward the elevator bank. He smashed the call button repeatedly. Come on, come on. We could see him mouthing the words on the hallway security camera Leo had hacked. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. Marcus lunged forward to get in. Freeze the car, I commanded. Leo tapped a key. Marcus stepped into the elevator. He pressed the button for the garage level. Nothing happened. He pressed it again. He punched the panel. The doors started to close, then stopped. They reopened. Voiceover. IP, Leo said. I am patching into the elevator speaker. Going down, Leo asked, into the microphone. His voice distorted to sound robotic. Marcus looked around the elevator car, eyes wild. Who is that access denied? Leo said, System failure. Please remain calm while security arrives. No, Marcus screamed. He tried to force the doors closed with his bare hands, but the elevator was dead. Leo had killed the motor. Marcus was trapped in a metal box on the 30th floor. He ran out of the elevator, heading for the stairwell. He grabbed the handle of the fire exit door. It was locked. Magnetic locks engaged. Leo noted, "Fire safety protocol override." "He is sealed in the corridor." Marcus was pacing like a caged tiger. He was sweating profuse amounts. He knew it was over. He ran back to his room, slamming the door and locking the deadbolt, as if a piece of wood could stop the federal government. We watched the hallway camera. The tactical team came off the service elevator. They moved with precision. They stacked up against the door of the penthouse. "FBI, open up." The shout was muffled but audible. No answer. Breach, a battering ram slammed into the door. Once, twice, the wood splintered. The door flew open. The team flooded the room. "Hands. Show me your hands." The camera angle switched to the interior view. Marcus was backed into a corner near the balcony, holding a heavy glass vase as if he intended to fight. "Drop it. Get on the ground, now." Marcus hesitated. For a split second, I saw the arrogance flare up one last time, the belief that he was a thorn, that he was special, that rules did not apply to him. Then he looked at the guns pointed at his chest. The arrogance collapsed. He dropped the vase. It shattered on the floor, joining the debris of his earlier tantrum. He fell to his knees. He put his hands behind his head. An agent kicked his legs apart, forcing him flat onto his stomach. They zip-tied his wrists. They hauled him up. He looked small. He looked pathetic. His shirt was torn. His face was red and splotchy from crying. And he was barefoot. We watched as they read him his rights. We couldn't hear the exact words, but we knew the litany. "Leo, pull the arrest report as they file it." I said. Leo waited a few minutes. "Here it is. Preliminary charges filed by the Southern District of Florida." He read the list. Count 1, conspiracy to commit money laundering. Count 2, wire fraud affecting a financial institution. Count 3, aggravated identity theft. Count 4, bank fraud, specifically regarding the falsified home equity loan applications using the identity of Quinn Everly. Count 5, evasion of assessment of tax. "It is a life sentence," I whispered. "The money laundering alone carries 20 years. The bank fraud is another 30. He will never see the outside of a cell again." We watched them march him out of the hotel. The paparazzi had arrived, alerted. Of course, by another anonymous tip Leo had sent 10 minutes prior. Flashes popped like strobe lights. Marcus Everly, the man who wanted to be invisible, who wanted to vanish with $50 million, was now the most visible man in Miami. He hung his head, trying to hide his face, but it was too late. His face was plastered on every news feed. "Look at the bottom of the screen," Leo said, pointing to the CNN ticker. "Breaking news. Fugitive financier Marcus Everly arrested in Miami raid. Linked to cartel money laundering scheme. Mistress detained at airport with stolen gems." I leaned back in the leather chair. The tension that had held my spine rigid for 3 days finally released. My muscles ached. I felt exhausted. But it was a clean exhaustion. The waiter approached our table. "Can I get you anything else?" "Ma'am." I looked at the TV screen above the bar, where the footage of Marcus being shoved into the back of a police cruiser was playing on a loop. "A glass of Pinot Noir," I said, "the vintage reserve, and a soda for my son." Celebrating, the waiter asked. "You could say that," I replied. We just closed a very long, very difficult chapter. When the wine arrived, I swirled it in the glass. I watched the dark red liquid coat the sides. "He is gone. Leo," I said softly. "He can't hurt us. He can't steal from us. He is just a number in the system now." Leo closed his laptop. He looked at me, and for the first time in days, he looked like a 14-year-old boy again. The hard edge of the hacker was gone, replaced by a quiet relief. "We won," Leo said. "Leo." "Yes," I said. Raising my glass to the screen where my husband's mugshot was now being displayed, a picture of a man who thought he was a king, now wearing the expression of a frightened child. We won. I took a sip of the wine. It tasted like victory. It tasted like freedom. Flight 492 to Zurich is now boarding. The announcer's voice echoed through the lounge. I stood up. I picked up my bag. I left the empty glass on the table. Come on, Leo, I said. We have a new life to start. We walked out of the lounge, leaving the news, the police, and Marcus Everly behind in the noise and the heat of Miami. We walked toward the gate, two ghosts disappearing into the clouds, richer, wiser, and finally, completely free. The federal detention center in Miami did not smell like the ocean. It smelled of industrial disinfectant, stale air, and the sour metallic scent of fear. I sat in a small, windowless visitation room, my hands folded calmly on the stainless steel ledge. I was wearing a linen dress, cool and crisp, a stark contrast to the humidity outside and the grime inside. I checked my watch. I had been waiting for 10 minutes. I was not impatient. I had waited 15 years for my husband to become the man he promised to be. I could wait another 10 minutes to watch him become the man he truly was. The heavy steel door on the other side of the thick plexiglass buzzed and clanked open. A guard stepped in, followed by a man in a bright orange jumpsuit. It took me a moment to recognize him. Marcus had aged 10 years in 3 days. His hair, usually styled with expensive gel, was greasy and matted against his forehead. His face was gray, covered in patchy stubble. His eyes, once arrogant and calculating, were red-rimmed and darting around the room like a trapped animal. He looked thinner, as if the very substance of his ego had been drained out of him, leaving only a hollow shell. He sat down on the metal stool. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead against the glass. "Quinn," he breathed. His voice was cracked, dry. "Oh God. Quinn, you came." I did not smile. I did not frown. I just looked at him. "Hello. Marcus, get me out of here," he said immediately, the words tumbling out in a rush. "You have to get me out. The conditions in here, Quinn, it is a nightmare. There are gangs. There is no air conditioning. I am sleeping on a concrete slab. It is a prison." "Marcus," I said softly, "it is not the Ritz. I know. I know," he stammered, his hands shaking as he pressed them against the glass, trying to get closer to me. "But it is all a misunderstanding. My lawyer, the public defender they gave me, he is an idiot. He says the bail is set at $5 million. I need you to post it. $5 million. I repeated. "Yes," Marcus said, his eyes wide with a desperate hope. "Use the trust money. I know you moved it. I know you tricked me with that guardianship paper. That was clever. Quinn, really clever. I underestimated you." He tried to smile, a grotesque attempt at charm that made my skin crawl. "But we can fix this," he continued. "Just wire the bail money. Once I am out, we can fight the charges. I can explain everything to the feds. I can tell them I was forced into the money laundering. I can tell them I was threatened." "Who threatened you?" I asked, tilting my head. "The cartel," he lied, his eyes shifting away from mine. "Or Ivy." "Yes, Ivy. She was the mastermind. Quinn, you have to believe me. She seduced me. She drugged me. I think I wasn't myself. I would never hurt you. I would never leave you and Leo. She made me do it. I reached into my bag. I pulled out a manila envelope. She made you do it," I said flatly. "Yes," Marcus nodded vigorously. "She is a witch. She twisted my mind. I love you. Quinn, I have always loved you. We have a son. Think of Leo. He needs his father." I opened the envelope. I placed a photograph against the glass. It was a screenshot from his phone, recovered by Leo before we destroyed the connection. It was a text conversation between Marcus and Ivy from 2 months ago. "Marcus, I can't wait to dump the old hag. She is so boring. Ivy, looking at her is like looking at wet cardboard. I just need to survive her cooking for another month." I watched Marcus read the text. His face went pale. I placed another photo against the glass. Marcus, I don't care about the kid. Leo is weird. He is always on that computer. Once we have the 50 million, I am cutting them both loose. A clean break. I want to start a new family with you. Baby. A real family. Marcus pulled back from the glass as if burned. He looked at the photos, then at me. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. The I love you narrative had just been decapitated. Wet cardboard, I said, my voice conversational. That is what you called the woman who washed your clothes, raised your son, and managed your life for 15 years. I didn't mean it, Marcus whispered, tears starting to leak from his eyes. It was just talk, locker room talk. I was trying to impress her. You were trying to erase us, I said. You weren't seduced, Marcus. You were revealed. Ivy didn't change you. She just gave you permission to be the monster you always wanted to be. Please, he sobbed, sliding off the stool to his knees. I couldn't see him fully, just his head bobbing at the bottom of the window. Please, Quinn, I am begging you. I don't care about the insults. I am sorry. Just pay the bail. I cannot stay here. They are going to kill me in here. I cannot pay the bail. I said. Marcus pulled himself up, his face contorted with panic. Yes, you can. You have control of the trust. You have $50 million. Just sign a check. That is the part you still do not understand. I said, you think I tricked you in the bank. You think that document you signed the transfer of guardianship is the reason you lost the money. It is, he yelled, spit flying against the glass. You hacked the printer. You stole my inheritance. No, Marcus, I said, I didn't steal anything. I just sped up the inevitable. I pulled a second document from the envelope. It was a copy of the original last will and testament of Jeremiah Thorne. I had highlighted a paragraph on the last page, Clause 9, subsection C. Read this, I said. Marcus squinted at the paper. What is this? It is the criminal forfeiture clause, I explained. Jeremiah Thorne knew his children were messy. He knew you were illegitimate and reckless. He put a safeguard in the trust. I read the words aloud, my voice echoing in the small room. In the event that the primary beneficiary is charged with or convicted of a felony involving financial fraud, moral turpitude, or organized crime prior to or within 5 years of the disbursement date, the entirety of the trust corpus shall immediately and automatically bypass the primary beneficiary and vest in the secondary beneficiary. Marcus stared at me. His eyes were huge, hollow pits of understanding. You were arrested for money laundering and wire fraud. I said, the moment the FBI slapped those cuffs on you at the hotel, you lost the money. Even if I hadn't tricked you into signing that paper at the bank, even if you had walked out of there with the $25 million, the bank would have clawed it back the second the indictment came down. No, he whispered. That can't be true. It is true. I said, the document I made you sign was just theater. Marcus, I wanted you to feel the loss. I wanted you to hand it over. But legally, you did this to yourself. Your greed, your crimes, your need to launder money for a cartel. That is what stripped you of your inheritance. So the money he trailed off, the money belongs to Leo. I said, it is in an irrevocable trust for his education, his future, and his life. I am just the trustee, and as the trustee, I have a fiduciary duty to protect the assets. I leaned closer to the glass, and I cannot use the beneficiary's money to bail out the man who tried to rob him. Marcus let out a low, keen sound, like a wounded dog. You are leaving me here, I am. I said, you have a public defender. You have a roof over your head. That is more than you left me with. I am your husband, he screamed, slamming his fist against the glass. The guard in the corner took a step forward, his hand moving to his baton. Not for long, I said calmly. My lawyer, a very expensive, very good lawyer named Robert Sterling, who suddenly had time for me once he saw my bank balance, filed the divorce papers this morning. You will be served in your cell later today. Marcus slumped against the wall. The fight went out of him. He looked at his hands, shaking in his lap. What about Leo? He asked, his voice barely audible. Can I see him? Can I explain? I stood up. I smoothed the wrinkles in my dress. Leo is the one who sent the evidence to the FBI. Marcus, I said. Marcus looked up, shock registering on his face. What, he tracked your laundering? I said, he built the case. He sent the file. He watched the police kick down your door. My own son, Marcus whispered, You don't have a son. I said, the words were cold, hard, and final. You have a victim, and that victim fought back. He will never forgive me, Marcus said, putting his head in his hands. He doesn't think about you at all. I lied. In truth, Leo was hurting. But Marcus didn't deserve to know that. He didn't deserve the satisfaction of knowing he had caused pain. To him, you are just a bad line of code that he deleted. I picked up my bag. Wait, Marcus scrambled up. Quinn, wait, don't go. I have no one. My mother is dead. My friends won't take my calls. You are all I have. You have nothing. I said, you are exactly where you deserve to be. Alone. Quinn, he screamed as I turned toward the door. I will rot in here. 20 years. Quinn, 20 years. I stopped with my hand on the heavy steel door. I looked back at him one last time. He was pressing his face against the glass again. Tears and snot smearing on the surface. His orange jumpsuit reflecting the harsh fluorescent lights. He looked like a ghost trapped in a jar. 20 years, I said thoughtfully. That sounds about right. Think of it as time served for the 15 years you stole from me. I love you, he shrieked. A desperate, final lie. Goodbye, Marcus, I said. I pushed the door open and walked out. Behind me, I heard him screaming my name. It was a raw, tearing sound. The sound of a man realizing that the abyss he had been looking into finally stared back. Quinn. Quinn, don't leave me. The heavy steel door slammed shut with a definitive clang, cutting off his voice instantly. Silence. I stood in the hallway for a moment. I took a deep breath. The air still smelled of disinfectant, but underneath it, I could smell the faint scent of rain coming in from the outside. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel happy. I felt light, the heavy weight I had been carrying, the weight of being the good wife, the supportive partner. The victim was gone. I had left it on the other side of that glass. I walked down the long corridor toward the exit. My heels clicked rhythmically on the linoleum. Click, click, click. It was the sound of moving forward. I pushed through the main doors and stepped out into the blinding Miami sun. The heat hit me, wrapping around me like a warm blanket. Leo was waiting for me in the car parked at the curb. He looked up as I approached. He didn't ask how it went. He saw my face, and he knew. I opened the car door and slid in. The AC was blasting. Is it done? Leo asked. It is done, I said. He knows. Did he beg? Leo asked. Staring out the window, he begged. I said. He cried. He blamed everyone but himself. Leo nodded slowly. Good. I reached over and took my son's hand. It is over. Leo, we are safe. Leo squeezed my hand. So, what now? I looked at the road ahead. It was wide and open. Now, I said, putting the car in gear, we go get our future back. But there was one last thing to do, one final knot to tie before we could truly sail away. I had taken his money. I had taken his freedom. But I needed to make sure that the world knew that Quinn Everly was not just a survivor. I needed to ensure that my name and my son's name meant something more than just victim. Drive, I said. We have a meeting with the future. It has been exactly 365 days since I walked out of that detention center in Miami, a full year. In some ways, it feels like a lifetime ago. A dark movie I watched once and then turned off. In other ways, the shadow of it still lingers. Not as a threat, but as a reminder of how quickly the ground can crumble beneath your feet. We did not stay in Seattle. That city was a graveyard of memories, a place where every coffee shop and street corner reminded me of the lie I had lived for 15 years. We did not stay in Miami either. The heat there was too oppressive, too full of the frantic energy of our escape. We moved to Monterey, California. The ocean here is different. It is colder, darker, and more violent. It crashes against the jagged rocks with a brutal honesty that I appreciate. There is no pretense here. The fog rolls in every morning, thick and mysterious, and burns off by noon to reveal a world that is sharp and clear. I bought a house on a cliff overlooking the Pacific. It is modern, made of glass and steel, with an impenetrable security system that Leo designed himself. It is not a fortress of fear, it is a sanctuary of power. I used the Thorn Trust money, or rather, the Leo Everly Future Trust wisely. I did not buy yachts or private jets. I did not become the thing I hated. I invested in the one thing Marcus had tried to take away from us: control. 6 months ago, I cut the ribbon on a sleek office building in downtown Monterey. The sign on the glass door is simple: Second Chance Security. It is not a normal private investigation firm. We are a specialized agency. We focus exclusively on digital forensics and financial asset recovery for victims of domestic abuse and spousal fraud. My clients are women who look exactly like I did a year ago, terrified, confused, holding a stack of declined credit cards, and wondering how their husbands managed to make their life savings disappear into thin air. I sit in my office, looking out at the bay. My desk is clean. There are no hidden cameras here, no secrets. My assistant, a sharp young woman named Sarah, who escaped a controlling marriage herself, buzzes my intercom. "Mrs. Everly," she says, "the verdict is on the news." I pick up the remote and turn on the wall-mounted screen. The image is grainy, filmed outside a federal courthouse in Florida. I see a figure being led down the steps in handcuffs and leg irons. It is Marcus. He looks older than his 41 years. His hair is gone, shaved close to his scalp. His face is gaunt. He is not looking at the cameras. He is looking at his feet. The swagger of the man who bragged about his $50 million inheritance is dead. The news anchor's voice is professional and detached. Former logistics executive Marcus Everly was sentenced today to 20 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Everly pleaded guilty to multiple counts of money laundering, wire fraud, and identity theft. Prosecutors described him as a key facilitator for an international cartel, using his wife's identity to secure fraudulent loans. 20 years. I do the math in my head. He will be 61 when he gets out. Leo will be 35. Marcus will miss everything. He will miss Leo's graduation. He will miss Leo's first love. He will miss the man his son is becoming. The screen changes. A mugshot of Ivy appears. She looks hard, angry. In a related case, the anchor continues. Sarah Jenkins, also known as Ivy LeClaire, was sentenced to 10 years for grand larceny and conspiracy. Jenkins cooperated with authorities, providing key evidence against Everly, but the judge cited her extensive history of confidence schemes in the sentencing. 10 years. She turned on him. Just as I knew she would. They ate each other alive. Just as I planned. I turn off the TV. I do not feel a surge of joy. I do not feel a need to celebrate. I just feel a quiet sense of order being restored. The universe is chaotic, but sometimes, if you push hard enough, you can force it to balance the scales. The door to my office opens. Leo walks in. He is 15 now, but he looks 18. He has grown 3 inches in the last year. He wears a hoodie and jeans, looking like any other teenager. But his eyes are different. They are the eyes of someone who has seen the code behind the matrix. He doesn't go by Leo online anymore. In the dark corners of the web, on the forums where hackers and security experts gather, he is known as the Watchman. He is a legend, a white-hat hacker who tracks down scammers and hands their locations to the authorities. He spends his nights protecting people he will never meet. "Did you see it?" Leo asks, sitting on the edge of my desk. "I saw it." I say, 20 years. Leo nods. He picks up a paperweight, turning it over in his hand. "Do you feel sorry for him?" I think about the question. I think about the man I married. I think about the young logistics manager who used to bring me flowers. I think about the man who emptied our safe and left a cruel note on the kitchen counter. I feel sorry for the man I thought he was. I say honestly, but the man who went to prison today, I don't know him. He is a stranger. Leo puts the paperweight down. I trace the last of the dirty accounts. Mom. The ones Marcus set up for the cartel. This was the final piece of the puzzle. The $50 million in the trust was technically legal money. It was old Jeremiah Thorne's legacy. But the $500,000 Marcus stole from us. And the millions he moved through Blue Horizon imports. That was blood money. When I took control of the trust, I made a promise to myself. I would not build my new life on suffering. Is the list complete, I ask? Yeah, Leo says. Most of the shell companies he defrauded were small businesses. Trucking firms, local suppliers. People he squeezed to skim money for the laundering operation. I have the list of names and the amounts he stole. Do it, I say. Leo pulls out his phone. He opens the secure banking app, the one that controls the guardianship account. Are you sure? Leo asks. It is $12 million. Mom, we are giving away $12 million. It is not our money. Leo, I say firmly, it never was. Marcus stole it from them. We are just the delivery service returning it. Leo smiles. It is a genuine smile, one that reaches his eyes. You are pretty cool. You know that I try. I say, execute the transfer. Leo taps the screen. Somewhere in Ohio, a small business owner who thought he was bankrupt is about to get a notification that will save his company. Somewhere in Texas, a family that lost their savings to a logistics error is going to get their life back. They will never know it came from Quinn Everly. They will just see a deposit from the Second Chance Foundation. Transfer complete. Leo says, we are clean. We still have the core of the Thorne Trust, $38 million. It is more money than we could spend in 10 lifetimes. But it is clean money now. It is money that will pay for Leo's tuition at MIT one day. It is money that will expand my company to help women in London. In Tokyo, in New York, I am going for a walk. I say, standing up, I need to finish one last thing. Do you want me to come? Leo asks. No, I say, grabbing my coat. This part I have to do alone. I walk out of the building and drive my modest sedan down the coast highway. I pull over at a scenic overlook. The sun is beginning to set, painting the sky in violent shades of orange and purple. The wind is whipping off the ocean, cold and biting. I walk down the wooden stairs to the beach. The sand is cold under my boots. There is no one else here. Just me, the seagulls, and the crashing waves. I reach into my pocket. My fingers close around a small, cold circle of metal. My wedding ring. I have carried it with me for a year. I don't know why. Maybe as a trophy. Maybe as a scar. It is a beautiful ring platinum, with a perfect diamond. Marcus bought it with his first big bonus. I remember how happy I was when he put it on my finger. I remember thinking that this ring was a shield that would protect me from the world. I didn't know that the danger was the man who gave it to me. I take the ring out. It catches the dying light of the sun. It sparkles, innocent and cold. I look at the ocean. It is vast and indifferent. It swallows everything ships, histories, secrets. For 15 years, I was Quinn the wife. I was Quinn the mother. I was Quinn the victim. Then, for 3 frantic days, I was Quinn the avenger. Now I take a deep breath, filling my lungs with the salt air. Now I am just Quinn, and that is enough. I pull my arm back. I do not throw it with anger. I do not scream. I simply release it. The ring arcs through the air. A tiny silver comet against the darkening sky. It hits the water 50 feet out. There is no splash. It just disappears beneath the surface, sinking down into the dark, cold depths where it belongs. I stand there for a moment, watching the waves roll in. The weight in my pocket is gone. The weight in my chest is gone. My phone buzzes. It is a text from Leo. Pizza for dinner, I smile. Pepperoni. I will be home in 20 minutes. I turn my back on the ocean. I turn my back on the sunken ring, on the prison cell in Florida, on the ghost of the life I thought I wanted. I walk back up the stairs to my car. I have a company to run. I have a son to raise. I have a pepperoni pizza to eat. Marcus Everly thought he could destroy me. He thought he could write the end of my story. But he forgot the most important rule of storytelling: the narrator holds the pen. He took my past, but I confiscated his future. Thank you so much for listening to this story. Please let me know in the comments where you are tuning in from. I would love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to Sweet Rose Drama, like the video, and hit the hype button to help this story reach more people.